So the Fujifilm X100VI is the hottest camera right now. There's just a couple of problems. The biggest problem is that it's very hard to actually get hold of one. There's such a demand. There's a waiting list of probably at least 4 months. It also is not cheap for a compact camera. I mean, it's obviously affordable enough that enough people want to buy it that it's sold out, but it's not a cheap compact camera.
No, it's £1,600 or dollars, and you're going to have to wait to buy it. There's currently a queue. So,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
So, yeah.
If you haven't got, if you can't afford it, or B, haven't got the patience to wait for it, there is a cheaper alternative, which gives you a similar kind of experience for a lot less money, and you can have it now, can't you?
Yes. Well, yeah, the X-T30 Mark II is Fuji's entry-level mirrorless camera, but it does have the manual controls when you pair it with a lens with aperture control, such as this 27mm lens. You've got quite a small camera, and you've got, yeah, like I say, the manual controls and an electronic viewfinder, a tilty screen. But there are, you know, it is a different camera. It is entry level. It is 3 years old now, and you've got 26 megapixels instead of 40 megapixels. It's not got image stabilization. This has got image stabilization, and there's other differences as well, such as the viewfinder is lower resolution than this.
On the other hand, there are obviously, the big surprising thing about these cameras is that you think you might want the X100 Mark VI because it's a small, light camera to carry around every day. But actually, the X-T30 Mark II is smaller and lighter than the X100.
Yes.
Which is maybe takes people by surprise. You wouldn't think so. And
everybody has unlimited budget, so you can buy this and then pair it with a cheap second-hand lens, perhaps, or
you can even buy the camera second-hand because it's 2 or 3 years old now, isn't it? You get a good deal on that camera with that lens, and it'd be half the price of that probably, the X100.
Yeah.
And you get an interchangeable lens camera, which is smaller and lighter.
Yeah.
But as you say, what you're not getting is the resolution and the IBIS of that one. You're not getting the hybrid viewfinder. I don't know about you, but I've used the X100 series, different ones. I generally prefer the EVF to the hybrid viewfinder. I don't know about what you think.
I think it can depend on your sort of shooting style. If the optical viewfinder gives you a bigger view of the scene, so you can sort of see things as they come into the frame, and if you're a street photographer, that can be beneficial. But yeah, when I used this in Japan, I was mostly using the screen. I love that you can tilt it and you can just sort of shoot from the hip, kind of, and yeah, it gives you the freedom to move the camera and change the framing when needed.
But you're using the screen there, not the hybrid viewfinder. Yeah. And this also has a tilting screen, doesn't it? Yeah. I found that I guess maybe it's the way I shoot. I like to see exactly what I'm getting in my picture. I like to compose tightly, correctly at the time. Which means using the EVF, and also see the exposure and all that, which you can't with the hybrid. You don't get any of that. So if you're not massively bothered by the hybrid viewfinder, that's another reason to buy that, I guess. If that's a big attraction to you, then you're obviously not going to get that in this camera, are you?
Yeah. I think an optical viewfinder is really rare these days. Digital SLRs are going away, and so yeah, if you want an optical viewfinder, this is like one of the only options. Unless you say you could buy this, add an optical viewfinder attachment to the top, like just an analog attachment. But yeah, there's not many cameras with optical viewfinders, and it is a clever piece of technology. You know, you've got an electronic overlay. It shows you shooting settings. You can have a picture within that for checking focus, etc. It is very clever, and
I mean, it is a great thing to have.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing to have, but it's something I found that I took on a holiday to South Africa with me. I thought I would use the hybrid viewfinder, and I'd use actually I ended up using the EVF. So, and you're paying a lot of money. It's clever, but it's an expensive bit of technology, isn't it?
Yeah.
That probably accounts for quite a sizable part of that cost of that camera.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the package, and it means you've got this style of camera. You see an old film camera, like a Konica Hexar, and they're like the same camera, like visually. And so walking around with this, people will ask you if that's a film camera. And that is something that, you know, you can't necessarily kind of quantify in specifications or like a list on a website. But
it is a beautiful camera, one of the most beautiful cameras.
Yeah.
But I would argue this is also still a beautiful camera, and a sort of, people might still ask if it's a film camera. It still looks like a film camera too. But as I say, if you can really compare them, it's...
I think Fujifilm have really nailed the sort of style of cameras. You know, they're steps ahead of anyone else. Because other companies are making boxes that are just sort of functional, but kind of boring.
Yeah.
There are some people, obviously, Olympus do some nice cameras, nice retro style cameras, but yeah.
And the Nikon ZF, obviously, although it's a different kind of thing, bigger.
But I think in terms of giving you a complete package, that, you know, you can use fully automatic, you can use the dials to change settings, and then you can use the manual controls as well. And Fujifilm have just also nailed that. You know, they're really nice cameras to use.
So what we've got here, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, this is paired with the 27mm 2.8 lens, which is their pancake lens, which is, in terms of size comparison, the closest comparison to the one on the X100, isn't it? There isn't a 23mm, the interchangeable lens one. This is 23mm, this is 27mm. So that's equivalent to 35mm on there and 40mm here, isn't it? So you've got a slightly less wide angle on here. But you can take this off and put an even wider lens on if you want to, whereas with that one you can't.
Yeah, so you can get adapters, wide angle adapter for this, but that does make it much bigger.
Yeah.
And you can use the cropping feature on this to give you some zoom, 50mm and 70mm or 75mm, and but then you're losing resolution on this. But the 40 megapixel sensor means it's not as much of an issue when you were cropping on the previous version, which was 26 megapixels.
Right. So overall, in summary, this is an absolutely fabulous camera, which every photographer would pretty much want one of these.
Yeah.
But if you either can't afford it or can't wait, this gives you a lot of the same experience and some extra features, but you lose some, but you gain some different ones for half the, well, not quite half the price by the time you put the lens on, but significantly less.
Yeah. I think if you're doing video, you're probably looking for a different camera, maybe entirely, because this doesn't have IBIS. But yeah, they're both good cameras, and you're going to get a step up from if you're using a smartphone. It gives you that extra quality.
The only last thing to add is this is, as I said, quite an old camera now, and we're probably this year going to see a replacement for this, probably an X-T40 or something of that ilk, you would assume, based on the usual cycle of camera launches.
Yeah, 3 years is getting on.
So if there's an X-T40 coming up, you will effectively going to get the 40 megapixel sensor and possibly the IBIS and some of these features in this body.
Hopefully.
So if that's the case, you might want to wait a little bit and see if that happens. And then obviously this may obviously be even cheaper.
Yeah, I think second-hand market is where you can save some real money. You could look at the previous version, X100V, or this second-hand, and you know, you don't have to buy the latest camera. You can step into a camera that's like 5 years old. Even there's a previous version of this, and you know, you're getting a great camera. Cameras have been good for a long time now.
They have. Okay, well, that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please comment below, tell us what you think. Which of these two cameras would you prefer to have? Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed, and we'll see you in the next video.